Welcome, everyone. I am so excited. I'm extra psyched today because I get to introduce you to someone so amazing. His name is Reginald Lewis, and you may know him because he's been on television and he's been on the Steve Harvey Show and NBC, and he's had a show in Las Vegas. And he's an amazing medium, psychic medium. He's a healer. He's a multidimensional channel. He is the soul teacher. And you know, I'm all about the soul here. And he has so much wisdom and his presence is so healing. And I know you'll see this as soon as you are experiencing him. So without further ado, here is Reginald Lewis. Hello, Reginald.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I am beaming because I'm so excited. I've had a reading with Reginald and, well, again, I wouldn't call it a reading because Reginald is a lot of things. And so, like, different than mediums, other mediums, he doesn't just, and by the way, being a medium is an incredible gift when people can help you heal from grief and give you that connection to your departed loved ones. Reginald, as a soul teacher, talks about your life and helping you elevate your spirit. And he also has an intention to elevate humanity, which is a shared intention of ours. So, Reginald, thank you so much again. So this is one of the reasons I'm excited to share your wisdom and energy with everyone because I've gotten to experience that with you. Oh, and I want to mention one more thing. You actually now have something called the Soul Matchmaker or the Spiritual Matchmaker?
Yes. I just launched a company, matchmaking company, called My Soul Matchmaker. Yes. So now I'm helping people with my gifts to find love.
I love it. And the inner Yenta in me loves that because matchmaking, probably my ancestors back in the day, I'm sure I had somebody there that was into. As a psychic, as a professional psychic, have tried to do that for my friends, and I'm terrible at it. So I'm glad that you have an actual gift for it. So can you tell us in your words what your unique gifts are? Because people don't realize it. They hear the word psychic and they think we're all mediums and we all talk to departed loved ones. Like for me personally, as a psychic, my specialty is talking to the guides that help you plan your life before you're born, which is very different than the people who just passed over. It's like at the other side of the spectrum there. So can you tell us what your specific unique gifts are? Because part of this show is helping people express their unique gifts.
Okay, yes. So for me, I consider myself overall a healer. A healer and a channel medium for me they're interchangeable for me. I know some people try to make, a different subtle difference between the two of a channel and medium, where mediums may just be people who just connect with loved ones. And channel may be someone who connects with the spiritual world, but they connect with higher guides and angels. But for me, it's all one and the same for me. There's no separation. And when it comes to the spiritual realm, I connect with ancestors, loved ones, as well as spiritual guides, ascended masters, angelic beings, as well as the psychic aspect. But all of my gifts operate in the realm of healing. So what I realize is that no matter who I'm talking to, what their circumstance may be, it's always about providing that person with a certain sense of empowerment to recognize who they truly are and release whatever blocks that they have that's keeping them from really elevating in life.
Wow, it's amazing that we do this with a different set of guides in some ways because you are very connected to departed loved ones. And I know the two of us are like, oh, just talking to departed loved ones, as if that's like something easy. So I'm not able to do that really very much. And so I want to give my adoration to anyone who is able to connect with departed loved ones. And that's healing in its own right, because when we're grieving, and a lot of us don't have the belief system that our departed loved ones are with us. And that's healing in its own right. But how is the healing that you do different than just knowing our loved ones are with us?
Yeah, so a great example is when I do my mediumship work, um, and loved ones come through, but also, spirit guides will come through. They work together as a collective, for our highest good. And so every time, especially when the loved one comes through, it's not always just about them. Of course, they will give pieces of information to give validation that it's them that I'm connecting with, the person's loved one. But they also, most of the time, they talk about where you are
Yeah.
in life, what you're going through, they give advice, they give insight to sort of give that person confirmation that you're on the right path, or, that you're not alone. And so what my guides always say to me is that it's not about the dead, even though there's no such thing
Yeah.
as the dead, it's about the living, so they really come through our loved ones because they're okay. They're fine. They're in a great place. The ones that they're more concerned about is us because we're still here in this three-dimensional world, and we deal a lot with the suffering and the pain and all of the lower vibrational type of things, so we're the ones that's still kind of going through this school,
I think some people may have questions about how they're able to give us advice or guidance if maybe they weren't even that great at that in real life. Like when they were here, like how are they able to help us with our lives once they're past?
Yeah, that's a great question because, like you said, some people might say, well, Auntie Mary, she wasn't the greatest person, she was a horrible person. She was really mean and, and et cetera. And it's like, how does she? Well, this is the thing that I've learned is that the personality, yes, it still continues on the other side. We keep part of our personality, but yes, we do learn and we shift our perspective, because one of the things that I've learned from spirits or souls that have connected with me is they always say when they cross over that they go through a period of what they like to call a life review. Okay. And so basically what happens is that their whole life flashed before their eyes. It's almost like watching a projector of scenes, movie scenes. And from the first time when they were born all the way to the end, and they cross every interaction, and they can literally see every person that they interacted with in life and the impact that they had on them and vice versa. So they actually see the positive that they did, and they also see the negative, the not so good that they did. And so they feel all of that. So basically they kind of let them know, like, how much of an impact did you have in that lifetime? Did you learn the lessons that you need to learn? Did you do more positive rather than negative? And so with that, there's an awakening. There's a certain awakening. Not to say everybody that crosses over, they become like enlightened all of a sudden. They know everything. No, but they do have a higher perspective now because they're no longer seeing from the limited identity, the ego of the physical self.
So I'm curious, are there themes? Like, are there certain things you hear or see a lot that people say, I wish I'd known this, or I wish I'd done this differently, or here's my advice for the living? Are there certain themes that come up over and over again?
Yes, most definitely. One of the things that I received a lot from Spirit connecting with the person I was reading is forgiveness. There's been many times where the soul will first come through and say, forgive me. And I ask, it's like a dialogue with Spirit. The way that I work is I communicate with Spirit by telepathically. I'll ask a question, what does this mean? Why you're saying this, and then I'll get information back. And most of the time, what I find out when they ask for forgiveness is that they make amends with themselves, and they're making amends with that person to say, I know that I wasn't the best person when it came to this. Maybe I did show love or affection, or say, I love you. Maybe I did not, encourage you when it was living, they recognize kind of what their downfalls were, or their weaknesses were, and they acknowledge that, and they do ask for forgiveness, for that person to acknowledge that, yes, I did make mistakes. I wasn't the best person in this area and I lacked, but I want to let you know now that I see that and I acknowledge that. And I hope that that brings you, and most of the time it brings the person that I'm reading comfort to say, wow, because I've always seeked that from that person. I always wanted validation from my mom or my dad. They wasn't the most caring person. They never said that they were proud of me, or that they loved me. And just that within itself, it just brings so much relievement and lifts a weight off of that person.
Forgiveness is a tricky topic. Because I think as spiritual people, and I know a lot of people watching or listening to this are very spiritual in nature. And we have like a spiritual bypassing culture where forgiveness is part of that, where a lot of us who know we should forgive don't go through a process of forgiveness. We just know we should forgive someone. So we're still having the feelings of it, of like the pain that they caused us, but mentally we are forgiving them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we are like, okay, I forgive this person, but we've not processed because we know we're supposed to forgive. So do you have any guidance on how to forgive? And also for people who maybe don't have the resources to see a medium or haven't seen a medium and don't get that apology from their loved ones and beyond and are left with this like void of like, I never got closure. Can you give advice on how we can forgive?
Yes. One of the things that I've learned personally, as well as through my journey of forgiving and learning personally as well as from spirit, is that you have to first acknowledge your hurt and your pain. That's one of the parts of forgiveness, is acknowledge that, I'm hurt, that I have this wound, inside of me. I think a lot of times, like you said, people will say, I forgive, but then certain things happen that would trigger, and they realize, oh my God, I'm still holding on to this. I didn't know I was holding on to this, and it's because they never really acknowledged, that pain. They never acknowledged that hurt inside of them. When you first acknowledge it, that gives you a certain sense of empowerment and control over it, because it's like that saying, know thyself. Knowledge is power. The more you have knowledge or awareness of something, the more power and control you have of it in regards to yourself. So when you're acknowledging that shame inside of you that you had, or that guilt, now you have awareness of it, which gives you more control over it, rather than it being something subconscious that was controlling you. So you have awareness of it. Once you allow yourself to fall into that awareness and acknowledge that pain and hurt, sit in it. It's okay to sit in it, okay? Because it's a process where it's not just going to go away immediately. You have to allow yourself to say, okay, I got to get comfortable with this, what I have it, so that you could get to the point to give yourself permission to say, now I can release it. A lot of times people think, okay, I forgive it, I acknowledge it, okay, I release it and let it go and it's gone. No, it's a process. There's a process of releasing, that pain. It's like, for instance, if you physically hurt yourself, say you got a paper cut, it doesn't immediately go away. It's going to be there for a little bit, and you have to nudge, ouch, this hurts, you might get mad, upset, cuss, whatever, but you have to acknowledge and you have to sit in it. And then as you allow to sit in it and acknowledge that pain, you acknowledge that, okay, it slowly starts to dissipate. And it begins to heal. And you get to a point where you say, okay, I can release this now. I don't have to keep, boo-hooing, over this cut. Like, it's healing, and allow yourself to go through that process and naturally allow it to heal.
That's really beautiful. And of course, we hear the expression, you have to feel to heal. But I think a lot of us don't recognize that we actually really need to do that it's a physical thing. This emotional process, it can't be done just with the mind. And I think a lot of us who are on the spiritual path are also afraid to acknowledge the anger we have for anyone departed or alive. Because we'll be like, well, they had a tough life and that's why they were like that. Do you think it's okay to say, I'm really angry still? Or like, is that part of the feel to heal situation? Is that?
Yes. Yes, that's what I was saying. Fully acknowledging what you feel, to say, I'm hurting. I have pain, I'm ashamed. I also feel guilt that I feel all these things, because one of the things that we know is that the mind and body is connected. And so a lot of the times, the physical things that we deal with, with ailments, diseasements, and things of that nature, there's a deeper aspect to it, not just physical. There's a deeper aspect emotionally, energetically, that causes for us to go through what we're going through physically. It's a projection, a manifestation of what we're dealing with on a much more deeper level, emotionally and mentally. So as you said, a lot of the times people will realize when they allow themselves to acknowledge that pain or that negativity, that usually they will feel it somewhere in their body. A lot of times people will feel it on their chest, in the heart area. Sometimes people will feel it on their shoulders and their back. Aches, things that they have back problems, in their bones, so the body literally absorbs and manifests it, so we have to go through that process, you said, of feeling it in whatever way that it wants to express itself in order for it to come up.
Yeah. And I think you talk about that guilt and shame. And I think a lot of us have guilt and shame for having those feelings. So can we acknowledge that it's okay, like to have what we see as unspiritual feelings, to say, I'm really mad, or this feels unfair?
Yes. And I'm glad you said that, because most people think it's not spiritual. And you know what I say? I say life is spiritual. We're going through a spiritual process. Being human is a spiritual process, because if you think, what is spirituality? Think about the two words, spiritual, and then you have reality. It's your spirituality. It's the way that this spirit is expressing itself.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to realize we are spiritual beings. If you believe we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, not the other way around, our spirit, our soul chose to be in these lifetimes, chose to be within these bodies, to express itself through its personality, to go through this school called life, called earth. So it actually is a spiritual process when we go through the pain, when we go through the hurt. So the more that we embrace being human beings as well as spiritual beings, then we're fully embracing our spirituality and our spiritual expression.
I love that. And one of the people I needed to forgive the most was me. And I think we all go through that. And mine was very existential, because I came in, even though I was born in a very secular family who didn't believe in a lot of anything, I came in with a very deep belief in reincarnation and past lives. And I remembered a lot of mine or elements of it. And I had an awareness that we choose our lives, even as a little girl. And I was mad at myself for choosing a very difficult early part of my life. And I didn't even choose one of the harder ones. I mean, there's definitely more challenging ones. I was very lucky and blessed in many ways, right? So, but I was like, really? Like, is this, you had a choice and this is what you chose? I mean, can you speak to that level of forgiveness? And I know we all have things that we go through where we're like, I chose this partner. And I want to talk about that with you, with matchmaking, and how that can like hold people up from finding their soulmates if they're holding blame and resentment for themselves or others. Can you talk about that sense of holding on to this blame and shame and guilt about our decisions, and how that's important in our lives to like have some elements of challenges and grief and all that, and also how that can help us moving forward when we move through that? It's a double question, but I know you have the capacity to handle all of that.
Yeah, I'm with you. So what I have realized through my own
Mm-hmm.
wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
growing, learning, is that, like you, I had a very clear knowing at a very early age that there was more to life than the physical, than what I saw, felt. I just knew that I wasn't this body. I always just kind of knew like I'm bigger than that. In fact, my life has always been sort of kind of like this out of body experience, where it's like, I know I'm in this body, but it's like, I feel like I'm on the outside observing my life and everything around me, you know? And what I realized is that that was my higher self, me being tuned and connected with my higher self. Because one of the things is that this aspect of us that's in this physical body expressing itself is only a very small aspect of who we are. Who we truly are is way bigger than this body. This is just a tiny, weedy piece of who we are expressing itself. And so the higher self is that part that is still connected with us, but that is sort of, you could say, kind of in the higher
Mm-hmm.
dimensions, kind of hovering over the physical body. As we say, we all know we have auras and we have layers to our multidimensional self. So I'm saying that to acknowledge first that, yes, we choose to come here and we choose our parents, we choose our life circumstances, our struggles, our difficulties, our highs and our lows to once again learn and to grow and to evolve, okay, as a spiritual being. Meaning, for instance, you said, you were very frustrated as a young girl. Why? Why
Yeah.
did I,
What
choose to,
I
be in
had
a
so
circumstance,
many
in a
things
situation?
about bodies and people, circumstances to choose from. Why choose the challenges? Why
Yes.
so many
Why?
challenges?
Exactly. Why? And that's the question most people ask.
Mhm.
Why? Why? Why did I choose that? Why am I
Yeah.
experiencing this? How come I didn't choose to be, rich, in a rich family and
Yeah.
be wealthy? How come I didn't choose to be in a
Yeah.
healthy body? And, if we choose, how come I wouldn't choose the perfect life?
That was a lot of mine growing up because I had health issues. Yeah.
Yeah. Why would I choose to be in this life of
Hmm.
suffering and pain and etc.? And why wouldn't I choose a perfect life? Well, you wouldn't come here then. You wouldn't even choose to incarnate because you could have just stayed in the spirit world.
Where things are very easy.
Or things, yeah, exactly. That was the reason to challenge ourselves, okay? To challenge ourselves to become more conscious and aware beings that we are co-creators of our reality, okay? That we have more power and choice and decisions in our life than we realize. I think that's the part of the veil or the forgetting that we have of why we chose to become, human beings, incarnated beings, is so that we can
Yeah.
learn, so that we can we won't choose the easy way, because if it was the easy way here, then everything would be perfect on life. We would already be living in this utopia. But that's not the purpose of Earth. The purpose of it, like I said, is a school, is to learn. So once again, when you experience difficulties, and it's a learning process. That is a learning process within itself to say, oh, you know what? I chose this relationship. Okay, it may have been an abusive relationship. Some people, why would I choose to be an abusive? Why would I choose to be abused? Once again, you have to look at the bigger picture. You're not looking from the ego, not looking from the physical perspective, looking from it as a soul to knowledge, okay, I am a soul. Okay, why did my soul choose this body? Okay, I'm going through this just because maybe I'm learning to love and
Hmm.
accept myself and where I am. Maybe I'm learning to say, okay, I'm stronger than what I am because this circumstance or situation is not ending me. It may be challenging me and stretching me and expanding me, but it's helping me become more aware that I am much more courageous than I am, that I'm stronger, that I can overcome, you know. Um, so we're learning these virtues. We're learning these qualities of our higher selves to implement them in this lifetime, which we carry forward in the higher realms or the next lifetime. And that's the thing, is that our soul is a composite of all of our life experiences. Okay. So everything that we've learned in the prior life, we carry that within this life. Everything we didn't learn in that prior life, we carry within this life to learn until we learn and master what I like to call self-mastery. We master that emotion, we master that awareness, and then we move on to the next thing.
People think mastery is just something you get by just, I don't know, like people, I know in numerology, everyone's like, oh, I want to be a master number. And I'm like, don't you realize that means there's more challenges? Like you have to master. So they think it means I'm a master. I'm like, well, how do you think you get to that point? Right? You have to like a diamond needs all that like abuse in some ways. I was even looking at, when I was younger, I grew up in New York and I grew up near the Hayden Planetarium. I loved going to the planetarium. And they did this thing about the moon, and like the moon is just pummeled. That's why it has those craters and things like that. And the moon is your emotions and it's really your inner world. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Like our moon, our luminous being that lights up the night sky has been pummeled, right? And that's our moon. That's one of our luminaries. So why would... Yeah.
And it's funny. I just want to interject. It's funny that you say that, because when you think about the metaphor of life and how we see the moon from afar, and it's this beautiful illuminated, thing that we're watching, but close, like you've seen the close up, and you're there, you see all these craters. It's not as beautiful, but once again, it's that perspective from afar, from being up close and personal and there, and being from afar. There's a difference in your perspective and awareness of how you perceive what you're perceiving.
Maybe the craters are part of the beauty too. And the thing is too, I think we all have our public lives and our private lives, and we look at people's lives and we think, wouldn't that be easier? And some people do choose an easier life. But
but no one has everyone has challenges. It don't matter whether you have all the money in the world, or no money, you still have challenges. And whether you're the most beautiful, so-called beautifulest person in the world, healthiest person, you still have challenges.
And there's blessings and challenges to even blessings. Do you know what I mean? Like money, all these things have responsibility. Great power brings great responsibility. And ask anyone who's famous, like you have to cultivate, like the moon, like it's not like it's easy. All that scrutiny, you have to be tempered. And the process of tempering metal, again, it's like takes a little bit of pummeling. And that's life on earth. And so I'm curious, you brought up let's say you were in an abusive relationship. And I think anyone who's had a relationship that wasn't perfect, and people have children with people that they may not even talk to later, or it can be contentious in some ways. What would you say to people who are like, well, why would I choose that?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say to that individual is to first allow yourself to step back, take a step back, meaning look at your journey through the process from the beginning to the end and everything in between, and kind of allow yourself to become the observer. Okay. There's a saying, hindsight
2020
is what? 2020. Exactly. There's a meaning behind that. It's like, once again, when you're in the midst of things, most of the time we're reactive beings. We're just reacting to everything, reacting to our emotions and circumstances, other people, etc. And then, when we're out of it and we're from afar, we start to begin to introspect, and meditate and become reflective. And we look at it from afar, and then we see things that we didn't see before when we're in the midst of it. It's like being in the middle of the storm, and being in it, and everything is just whirling, and you see chaos. But then when you're outside of it, You kind of see everything, the aftermath of everything. You can process it differently. So when it comes to abusive relationships, I've dealt with many clients, who've been, male, and female,
Yeah, there's
men and
people
women.
think it's just women, but people can
Yeah.
abuse people in many different ways.
Yeah, exactly. And those individuals that have experienced it, they would ask, why? Why did I go through this? Why did I choose to experience so much pain and difficulty? But then I say, that's not the question. That's not the core question. It's not why. The key question is what? What did I learn from that? What did I learn from that experience? What did this person teach me? What did they show me within me? Because a lot of the times, what I see is that people like to play the blame game. They like to point the fingers, and say, because of this person, because of that person, and they make it all about that other person. But when you make it all about that other person, you're giving away your power, because you're saying, oh, I'm this way because of that person. I experienced it because of that person, where instead if you say, what did I learn from this person? What did they show me within me? What have I learned about me? You're taking the focus away from them, putting the focus on you so that you can take accountability, which is key, and say, okay, now that I'm here and I'm no longer in that situation or circumstance, how am I feeling? What can I do with where I am now? And how can I move forward from what I've learned from that situation? Because in hindsight, they do realize, oh, even though I went through the most horrible experience, I'm still here. I'm still living, and instead of just existing, I can choose to start to begin to thrive and take control of my life. Okay. And what I've gone through, because that pain, yes, I experienced it, but it made me realize that, wow, I'm a very strong person. As they say, what doesn't kill you make you stronger. And they learn about things about themselves that they wouldn't have seen before or realized before if they didn't have that encounter with that person. Because relationships, whether it's platonic relationships, friends, family, or romantic relationships, they're all a reflection of our reality, and who we are and the things that we need to learn, which is why that person came in our life in the first place, because there's a contract there.
Yeah. And that's hard for people to understand. And I really want to emphasize again, when you talk about accountability, it's not to beat yourself up for doing that. Because victims always beat themselves up, it seems. It's like our first reaction, like, what could I have done differently? And sometimes it's that you had to learn how to empower yourself, and your soul was strong enough to empower yourself.
Yes. And because the key thing, going back to who we are as spiritual beings, having a physical experience, is that, it's a hard reality and pill to swallow for most people to take accountability and say, I allowed this to happen, and to say, oh, I allowed this person to abuse me. Well, a lot of times it happened because that person didn't know better, because they were already operating from a place of having low self-esteem or low self-worth, whether that was the way that they grew up, from their parents or drama that they already carried. And all that person did coming to their life is amplified that, to make them realize, to make them get to the point to say, why am I in this circumstance and situation? Why do I keep going through this same pattern? Why do I keep attracting the same type of person in these relationships, and experiencing the same thing, And once you get to that point, you're going back to that of, okay, not only why, but what am I learning in this? Then you realize, oh, you know what? When you know better, you do better.
That's right. That's right. That's right. It's an empowerment journey. I think every difficult experience we go through is an empowerment journey. And then also we help empower others through our experience. And that's part of why we're here, is to help others. And that said, I want to ask you more about this matchmaking and how you got into that and how you can maybe help people now who aren't, again, maybe they don't have the means for the service. And of course, we'll put a link to that matchmaking service in our description and our show notes, or as I accidentally called the other day, the soul notes.
I love that.
We'll put it in the soul notes below. I'm sure, and even people in relationships, we still have challenges in our relationships. So I want to know what that journey was like for you getting into that. Obviously, you probably saw some patterns within you or other people, and something also that can help us with that as well.
Yeah, so honestly, it took me to a complete surprise. I didn't even know I was going to end up, creating a matchmaking company, becoming a matchmaker. To make a long story short, in the midst of COVID and the lockdown, I remember it was a Saturday evening, and I was at home like most people watching Netflix, and on my living room couch, and I fell asleep. And I woke up the next morning, and as clear as day, there was a download that I had. And there was a name, and the name was My Soul Matchmaker. It was so strong and so clear that the first thing I did immediately is I ran to get my laptop to open it up and literally, research it to see, like, did this name exist
It has
anywhere?
It should.
Is it out there?
Why did someone get
that's
this
what I mean.
before?
I was thinking, like, is it out there? This somebody has, a name, look it up. Nothing. So the next thing I do, I look up the domain, I look it up, domain is available. So I immediately buy it at that moment. The next thing that I do is, I don't think much about it. I just literally sit on it, because honestly, I never ever thought in my life of doing matchmaking. It's never in my mind, nowhere within my sphere. And I sat on it for about a year. Then all of a sudden, after, a year, Spirit gave me this very clear knowing and message that it's time. It's time to do this. It's time to make this happen. I was a little bit nervous because, once again, I don't know. I didn't know what matchmakers exactly do. Of course, I've heard of matchmakers, but I didn't know, you have to go to school, you get certifications, how do you operate, a matchmaking business, I think in Spirit, like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, you're going to stress me out with this, so I started doing my research. And, I started learning about matchmakers, and I find this lady who came from a corporate background, and she felt unfulfilled, and she decided, a friend mentioned to her, how about you go into matchmaking? So she learned about that, and she built her own company. It was very successful. She became one of the top matchmakers internationally, and she was so successful that she sold her matchmaking company. Yes, and she had an ebook about it that I read, and I fell in love with it. It was so inspirational. And I found out that she had a school for teaching matchmaking. And I know, who knew?
Your guides,
and
apparently.
So I said to me, exactly, my guides. The universe, Spirit, they knew what they were doing. Exactly. So I said, this makes perfect sense. I'm going to join, her program and, get certified and learn all of the ins and outs. Another thing that I didn't realize afterwards is that in my work, one of the number one areas that I deal with is love and relationship.
Yes.
So 15 years doing my work, love and relationships is the number one area. And I dealt with every...
We'll talk about that in a minute.
I started off young. So these looks are very deceiving. I have a baby face.
Bubble, I'm going to pinch your cheeks. See, my inner yenta comes out. You may not even know what a yenta is, but it's...
Yeah, I know.
If you went to matchmaking school, perhaps it came up.
Exactly. Yeah. It was part of the learning process. So I didn't realize after I said, Reggie, you have had experience 15 years, love and relationship. Every circumstance you could think of, I have literally dealt with. Yeah. Every relationship circumstance and situation, marriages, divorce, separations, gay, straight, abuse, you name it, I have literally dealt with it. So I have a lot of experience and knowledge dealing with relationships. And so what I realized, one of the things is that the name My Soul Matchmaker, I realized that one of the key things that I saw that people lacked and trying to find their soulmate or their life partner is first a lack of self-awareness and self-knowledge, and not being clear in who they
Yeah.
are and what their
Mm-hmm.
values are and what their
Mm.
worth is.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, like I said, we
Mm-hmm.
attract people in our life based on who we are. Okay. So a lot of times I realize, once again, people say, I keep getting into these relationships of dealing with
Mm-hmm.
narcissists, that's a huge
Yes.
one.
Empaths and
Like,
narcissists
I
are like, we are a match made
exactly,
in
yes,
heaven a lot of times. Because we were
yes,
like, oh, my soul
yes.
contract. I want to find a narcissist to teach me how to believe in myself and put my needs first.
Exactly, so that happens. And then that person has to realize first awareness of their
Mm-hmm.
sensitivity and realizing that their sensitivity is not a
Mm-hmm.
weakness, that is a strength. Because what happens is that real narcissists, just to let people know, because I think a lot of
Yeah,
people would
they
throw that
do.
word out
Mm-hmm.
there, when it's a very real sickness,
Yeah.
that people deal with,
Yeah.
and mental thing
Yeah,
that
it's for
people
real.
deal with. And and a lot of times what happens is that a person who's sensitive or an empath, when they're not very confident within themselves, and their worth and self-value, it's a recipe for disaster and attracting a narcissist, because narcissists, they like to feed on people that they feel that they can feed on their
Mm-hmm.
emotions, and that they can mold
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
control, you know. And if you're a person that's not very confident in who you are and know who you are, then that person is just going to play on that. They're going to play on your insecurities, they're going to play on your lack of self-awareness. So when that person realizes, okay, you know what? My sensitive is not a weakness. It's a strength. It's okay for me to feel the way that I feel, not allow someone who see that weakness to play on that and make me feel bad about how I feel and my sensitivity, and make me feel less than. Then that person can no longer kind of play on those heartstrings, or play with you mentally or manipulate you mentally. And so that's what I help a lot of people with usually, is overcoming that pattern, so that they can stop attracting narcissists and begin to attract someone who is worthy of their gift, their sensitivity, who will nurture their sensitivity, someone who will match them on the level where they are, or someone who will uplift them, or have the spiritual awareness. So it's like, they're saying, say, change your thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
you change your life. It's
Yeah.
very true. You change your thoughts, you change the way that you think, you change your
Mm-hmm.
mentality, you change your perspective. Your life, it does
It
begin to
does.
change. And the people that you attract, it begins to change. And the relationships that you begin to attract, you attract a higher quality
Yeah.
being, a more high valued being. And so you graduate from that level of attracting narcissists to attracting very spiritually like-minded individuals, conscious beings.
That's beautiful. And I would love to have you back even to talk just about that as well. And so I want to be very aware to keep this in a container of time that people can synthesize all the incredible things that you're sharing with them. So, how would you encapsulate a way for empaths, especially if you maybe have esteem issues or boundary issues? Is there something that you can share with us that can help us recognize? Because it's easy to say, believe in yourself, but what does that even mean? Can you share what
Exactly.
that means and how we can do that?
Yes. First thing is, do the work, do the self work. Don't be afraid to do the self work. Once again, first look at the mirror, look in the mirror, look at you, take time to self reflect. I love the word soul
Yeah.
search. Do some soul searching. I'm very huge on that. Saying do some soul searching. Take more time for you, getting to know yourself inside and out. Okay. Building a relationship with yourself. Beginning to love who you are, beginning to love the aspect of you that's growing, that's an evolving being, to say, yeah, you are not perfect. No one's perfect in regards to the way other people may perceive you. But you are exactly where you need to be as far as growing and evolving. Okay, so allow yourself to go through that process. The other aspect is once you begin to do the work on you, beginning to be clear, be very intentional, and be very clear about what you desire out of life, what you desire in the partner.
Yeah.
Be very specific, be very clear. I want someone who's conscious and aware and loving and nurturing, who understands my sensitivity. I want a partner who very much so is encouraging, empowering, and where we can work together and empower each other and uplift each other and grow together. Know your core values. That's a key part of my matchmaking company. Okay. And how I deal with my clients and how I matchmake is I get to the core of what are your core values? What do you have to bring to the table? And what do you want someone else to bring to the table? Because my big question was when I first began developing my matchmaking company is what is that one thing that keeps people together or growing, evolving, no matter the challenges, because you're going to experience challenges. You're going to experience highs and lows, okay, as you're evolving and growing. What is that one thing that's the glue that keep people together? And what came to me was core values. If you have core values, very strong and clear core values, you and that partner, no matter what, you can be different cultures, come from different cultures, have different religions. You can have different, taste and food, and there could be, but if you say, what matters to me the most is being a good person, and treating people with respect, no matter what, being kind to other people, acknowledging people for who they are and not what I want to perceive or try to make this person to be. If you have those core values, that's the thing that is going to help you to stay together and to grow and to evolve together. So key core values are important. What are your core values? What matters to you most in life?
It is important to have what matters to you most in life as part of your core that keeps your relationship together. I've actually been with my husband for 30 years. Again, I was a child bride, but that's one of the main things we share. But also, he was the first one, because he's also an empath and very psychic. He understood my sensitivity and didn't mock it in any way. And I've been mocked for my sensitivity. That's, again, one of the challenges growing up that I had that made my life difficult growing up. But it's our strength, is that we're super, super, super sensitive to each other and the world. And so I think it's really important, especially for empaths, to find someone and to make sure that's a core value in many ways, is that they appreciate your sensitivity.
Yes, that they're understanding.
Yeah, they don't need to be an HSP or an empath, but they need to honor.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. And that's the key thing, because I thought about myself, I can use myself as an example.
Do. That's why you're here.
As exactly. Is, being a sensitive person, being a very aware person. I'm mostly a loner, and I don't mind that because I love me. I love me time. I love quietness. But of course, there's always that aspect to naturally want or desire to have companionship in a way, or to have, but not just any type of relationship or companionship, but someone who's understanding, someone who can grow with me on the path. And so I said, where did those people go? Where do the people, the light workers go? Where does the conscious, individuals go? Where do the purpose-driven individuals go? The mission-driven leaders, where do they go to find love? Because a lot of the times, as and many others who may be listening to this, it's a very lonely path.
Yeah, it can be, for sure.
It's a very lonely path, and you may wonder, am I going to ever meet someone who's going to
Well,
understand?
it can be lonely, but lonely it could be a very solitary, which isn't necessarily lonely. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. There is a difference.
It's the loneliness comes in, and for me too, because I tend to be like my tastes are very different than what most culture, like I much prefer to be in nature than like in a big crowd somewhere. So, and some people like both, but I truly don't enjoy crowds very much typically. But you were in Vegas, so like obviously you're very comfortable with that and enjoy that. And I was a performer too. I was an actress for many years, but in terms of my personal life, I really enjoy when we have a judgment that there's something wrong with us for having a more solitary path, that's when I think. And we could talk about that for ages.
Yes.
So,
And
yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, though. I just want to say one thing about that. You're totally right. It's a difference between, feeling alone, and like you said, feeling, solitude. Because I enjoy my peace. I love actually being by myself, like I do. Now, I like to be what I desire sometimes is being around people of like-minded. But I'm very discerning because I know I just can't have anyone around me or entertain anyone because it could be very draining unless that person is very much on the same vibration or awareness. So I'm very discerning, and I'm okay. I have a very small group of friends. I've always been like that, and, even when it comes to relationships, I'm very discerning, and I'm okay with that because I know as I grow and evolve, as long as I continue to be happy with myself and at peace with myself, I will attract someone who's going to meet me on that level or higher. So I'm okay with being where I'm at, until that person comes along, because I know that I will attract who I am.
Right. And I wanted to emphasize that is the key to relationships as well. They will not complete you. You need to be the person that you want to be with. And then, so
exactly. People compliment you.
Compliment with an E, not like you
Yes.
need constant compliments with an I, like constant affirmation. So that being said, I always like to end these sessions with a magic lesson, something that people can incorporate and take into their daily lives and think about and assimilate, something simple and easy. What magic lesson would you like to share today about anything we've discussed today?
Okay. The first thing that comes to mind is intention. To be intentional, to start your day every day with an intention. Okay, be intentional how you want your day to go. Be intentional about what you want to experience throughout that day, the feeling, the emotion, and just be very intentional because I believe we are all our own genies, and we live in a universe where the universe, I believe, is like a genie, and it gives us exactly what we want, what we desire, whether
on a soul level. So make it very on a physical level too.
Yeah, exactly. So perspective is everything, and the mind is a very powerful thing. So when we start to begin to live our life intentional, I believe that life really it moves along a little bit more smoother. And there's a little bit less, not saying there's not going to be any bumps, but a little bit less bumps in the road because you're very clear and intentional about your life and how you want to live your life. And so I believe really that the universe and everything around you, once again, will begin to align with whatever that your intention is. So be very intentional. Try to be intentional every day when you wake up. And for instance, I wake up every day, and the first thing I make sure that I say when I wake up, no matter what, is thank you. So I'm being intentional about waking up and starting my day with gratitude.
Thank you. I have so much gratitude for you. And my intention today was having an incredible, inspiring, fun, and wise conversation with you. And I feel like you helped me fulfill that intention. So thank you for this incredible, inspirational discussion. I hope you'll come back because I'm sure there's more that people want to enjoy from you. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you for a session, because you still do sessions, correct?
Yes.
And
Yep.
your matchmaking service, which is, if you can tell us the links, and I'll include them in the soul notes below. So
Yes.
how do we get in touch with you if we want to? What's your website
Yeah.
and
So anyone,
websites?
yes. So anyone who wants to get in contact with me for, one-on-one session, you can go to my website, reginaldlewis.com or thesoulteacher.com. And if you're interested in my matchmaking company, which is free to sign up, so just let everybody know it's free to sign up. And you want to join my Soulmate database, that's what I call it. You can go to mysoulmatchmaker.com, mysoulmatchmaker.com.
Thank you so much. I loved every millisecond of this, and I'm sure so many people have benefited from your love and light and wisdom. Thank you, Reginald. And thank you all for listening. So much love. Bye for now.